Hi, my name is Thayer Period, and here's how I remade the beat to Run Plus Ran by Carson, originally produced by Starboy Outtatown. The first thing I remade were these piano chords. I didn't really remake them, I guess. I just took a piano and had it play the right notes. I'm using this Grandeur piano from Contact, very good library. I have the hardness turned up a decent amount just to make it a little more of a sharp sound. Then for effect processing, I just ran it through an OTT on 30%, boosted our highs a bit and cut our mids. Then just did a little bit of EQing to clean it up. As you see, it makes it a little less harsh. The next thing I added was this flute lead. Huge shock, I remade this in 0. Here's how it sounds with no effects. Honestly, not super crazy. Nothing super intense going on here. We have a triangle wave for our oscillator A, along with a noise oscillator layered in to provide some nice extra kind of crispiness. It kind of gives it, since I knew the original was like a flute sound, but it kind of sounded like a synth flute, I was like, oh, I'll add this kind of breath sound. Helps kind of recreate the sound of that flute, like gives it a bit of a more organic sound than just the triangle wave by itself. I then ran both of those to a low pass filter. We got our cutoff being modulated by the envelope 1. Just to give it a bit of an opening motion. Resonance is cranked up a decent amount. Then for effects, I just started by cutting our lows and boosting our highs. Then a tiny bit of delay, only on our higher frequencies, followed by just a reverb. Next thing I added were the vocals. Yeah, that is me. Me trying to recreate the vocal sample in the original. I couldn't find the sample online, so I was like, yeah, I'll just resing it myself. I'm not gonna play this without auto-tune. There's not a super huge amount. Got our retune speed on 10 with some humanize, but I started by running that through a noise gate, then an auto-tune to clean up some of the notes, set to the key of the song. Obviously, I have some humanize on as well to make it a bit more natural sounding. Also, there was one note that I specifically had a hard time hitting, so I used another auto-tune with all of our notes canceled besides the C sharp, and I then just used some automation to turn that on for that specific part so it would hard correct to that C sharp. As you can see, I kind of hid the automation down here, but it's like right here. Almost not noticeable, but then I just ran that through a Pro C2 with our upfront preset. Under the vocal section, I really like this compression preset for my voice specifically. And then just a little bit of EQing to kind of clean it up, get rid of some of the low end that didn't need to be there, and just a reverb for some atmosphere. Next thing I added was this funky square bass. I love this sound. As you could probably guess by the fact that I called it a square bass, it is made mainly from square waves. Here's how it sounds with no effects. Essentially, the sauce we got going on here is square waves for both of our oscillators. The second one is pitched up an octave higher than our first one, but the level is turned down to 26% just to provide an extra kind of higher layer to our main oscillator. I'm also using bend minus warping for both of these. As you see, it kind of alters it in a specific way. Then the main sauce going on here is we have a low pass filter. Here's without the low pass filter. As you can see with this low pass filter, we got some interesting stuff going on. Our resonance is cranked up super duper high to 51%. That is a lot of resonance. Then we are using an envelope, specifically our envelope 2, to control the cutoff of that low pass filter. Through really short notes, we get that like really nice, like chunky, plucky bass sound. For effects, I started by just running it through a chorus to give it some additional width. I think chorus usually sounds good layered in with most sounds. Then just a bit of a high boost and a low cut. And yeah, that is that bass. Next thing I added was this pluck. Starboy and Outtatown like totally outdid themselves with this beat. Like this beat is so good. I love all the little elements incorporated. Like definitely one of my favorite beats I've remade so far. Here's how that sounds with no effects. Nothing super crazy going on here. We just have a saw wave with two voices of unison, but our detune turned down all the way. Then I have our noise oscillator activated because we're using it to FM our oscillator A. It's not super noticeable, but it does add a little bit of grit to our sound. Then I ran it through a tube distortion to beef it up a tiny bit, followed by a multi-band compressor, and then I added an EQ to cut our extra high end and low end, followed by just a reverb. Yeah, pretty simple sound. Then, last element for the first half that I sound designed was this pad. Honestly, you probably could not even hear that because it just layered in pretty quietly, so I will just solo it. Really pretty pad sound. It's playing the same chords as the piano, kind of providing just like an extra layer. Here's how that sounds with no effects. Honestly, yeah, very beautiful sound. So, kind of just using some pretty basic pad logic here. Just using some pretty basic pad techniques here. We got 2 oscillators. Our second one is set to a triangle wave, so is our first one. But I'm using some sync on our first one to displace it a bit, make it a little higher pitched in tone. Then I layered that in with another triangle wave, but an octave higher, just to give it an extra higher layer. We have quite a bit of unison on both of these oscillators, as you can see, detune all the way straight down the middle, and then a low pass filter with the cutoff being modulated. Decent amount of resonance and some drive and fat too. But the core principle of a pad is you want slow movement to kind of give a nice, like dreamy sound. So we have this super long volume envelope, 425 milliseconds of attack, super long decay, sustain going down 10 dB, and then our release that is also pretty gentle. As you can see, that controls the cutoff of our filter as well. For effects, I just started by adding a dimension just to give it some extra width, followed by a EQ to get rid of extra high end and low end, since it is not a super prominent sound. That's why it sounded so quiet in the mix, followed by a chorus, again for width, and just a delay and reverb for, again, more atmosphere. Next, I added the 808. Nothing really to say here, it's just a Zay. Then last but not least, we got our drums. Using this Disney hi-hat and this bank clap. And yeah, that is the first half of the beat.